Good evening, and welcome to another puerile edition of Diatribes from the Voice of Doom. And now here's your acerbic and septic host, Voice of Doom. Thank you, Mr. Announcer. Put my glasses on because I think it looks good with this ensemble. Getting some new duds. Decided I was going to spring for a new shirt for work because I ruined my other one. And I went to Salvation Army. And the first thing I saw right as I walked in the door was I hate brand new. It was a new, unused white shirt, short sleeve, just my size. So I'm realizing the universe is in rhythm. Those are little things that happen that make you know you're kind of in rhythm. And I know why I'm in rhythm. And I know what I have to do to keep in rhythm. But as you may well know from looking at my crap, that I like to have a different look every time. And I know I've repeated, but I've done about 100 of these things, so I try to have a little different nuance on every, just a shtick is my thing. Hat is the consistency, but I can't even do that because then I'm going to be stuck with the hat. And then if I lose the hat, my life is over. But I thought I'd wear the glasses because it's good for reading, especially my chicken and dictionaries. They're very small. Just going to continue with yesterday and finish up and add a few little dog tags at the end of both subjects. Now, I don't know which one's more entertaining. I guess I'll start with this Virginia. They're putting all their baskets in one egg, and that's going to be Virginia. And I already told you what I think is going to happen and why. Now, it occurred to me that I should expand on that because it will be very interesting, and it's inevitable, just like cause and effect. Like the sun coming up, there's going to be an election of some sort. And there's going to be rampant cheating. And then what happens is somebody will end up being declared the winner, and the other side will immediately say that the voting system is corrupt and a fraud. And that will happen either way. And on one case, you may be able to say, yes, I think it was, but that will be ignored, that will be poo-pooed, that will be called the big lie. And we all know which side that is. Now, if the other side loses, which, according to everything I've heard, should lose and won't. I mean, if they lose, they will claim fraud and rampant voter discrimination and all kinds of things and have it in court until 2057. And they will get away with it. They will try to get every vote they cheated for in the courts. And it'll be a mess. And there will be no opposition. They won't be calling it the big lie. They'll just say, no, we didn't cheat. We won fair and square. And that'll be that. So that'll be fun to watch tomorrow. I'm looking forward to that. Second thing is I was talking about debt and paying off the deficits and paying for his Build Back Better framework. And when I say framework, it is a frame. It's a piece of work, and it's a frame up. Listening to the radio today, and they were talking about something, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Why is McConnell, a wishy-washy dipweed? I mean, I know why, but why? What are they talking? Well, he voted to raise the debt ceiling, and it occurred to me that I didn't talk about the debt ceiling, and it's so absurd because what they do is they say we cannot go past this amount by law. We cannot get past $27,572,000,000,000. And if we go past that, we won't have any money to keep the government going. So we must vote in a tax ceiling. I mean, we must raise the tax ceiling. And if not, we must do something to be, a temporary measure so we can keep on spending before we raise the ceiling. Now, there's reasons why it confuses me because, first of all, when they say we're going to have to shut down the government, which I don't mind, they usually only just shut down the monuments. And they might save like $3,000, or we're going to furlough off 3 million government workers, but they're going to get paid. They're going to get back paid. So what's the point in laying them off? Well, you can't pay them a paycheck because of the debt ceiling. Come on. Do I have to go into detail about how it's so stupid? Why don't they just vote right now, today, in the middle of the night? They can get together, they can put their jammies on, your bathrobes, and go down to the Capitol and say, the debt ceiling is now the empty set. It's now as high as it needs to go. Let's never worry again about shutting the government down because, according to them, if they reach that debt ceiling, then the debt should just stop. That little counter that keeps spinning up should just stop because we can't spend anymore. We've reached the ceiling, so it should stop. And it doesn't seem to stop, so even though they say we can't spend more, the machine on the computer with the running totals doesn't stop. So I don't understand that. And I've already wasted 6 minutes and a half talking about what I should have talked about yesterday. But I find it interesting, and I find it amusing, and I find it absurd. Shut down the monuments first. Let's make the tourists suffer, the people that take their kids to D.C. after saving up for years to go to D.C., and now we're going to shut it down. What about Social Security? Well, those checks will keep coming. Don't worry. Well, what about Medicare? Well, those checks will keep coming. But we're shut down. Stupid. I mean, it used to be kind of funny stupid. Now it's stupid like asteroid belt soon stupid. G20 in Rome. I wanted to talk about Petri Dish because he's a never-ending source of amusement and dismay. And I think I can go on about him without looking at the corpulent, not right, the profuse amount of notes I took, which I don't know why I do. Because most of the time you can't take notes on him because it's like you're writing down what he said and it's like, well, what is he? It's a verb and then he's saying we have to and then he stops and then he goes into and that's why we have. So it's impossible. I'll just run through real fast. Global minimum tax of 15%. So I don't know what that means. Who's going to get the taxes? I mean, they each pay their own country, 15% minimum. Giant corporations will pay their fair share. Means everybody who has anything to do with those corporations will pay their fair share. Diplomacy with Iran is what's needed. Serious good faith negotiations. Now I'm going to get to that at the end because they had a question down here. The tigers that are kind of turning on Roy Horn. Go back to my other stuff. BBC framework, and I realize how appropriate that new term is rather than calling it an initiative or a package or this is my big proposal to Congress that's going to make my career forever. Now they call it a framework, and that's really a good word. It really describes it. It's a frame up, and it's a piece of work. Real piece of work. Trade based on carbon content. It's going to be interesting to see how they measure that. I heard that those 20 barges took up, expended more waste into the air than all the cars put together. And now they're still sitting out in the docks, dumping their cargo now, I guess. Climate crisis, he said that 50 times. And I was listening to some of that crap he said in another speech, and it's kind of like he's talking resiliency. So he's not really talking about controlling the climate anymore. He's talking about protecting ourselves against disaster due to the climate. But he keeps saying climate and how we're going to have to... I'll get to that. And he says, I'm told I should start with when he's going to take questions, finally. That's why I was interested, because he actually talked to people, sort of. I was told I should start with, and he keeps saying that almost like that's his tagline, that's his punchline now. That's his whatever, take my wife, please. Yeah, you said it again. Now he says this every time. So they probably gave up on that. Don't keep saying I've been told. When you keep saying it, it's funny. Question: your poll numbers suck. Do these leaders really believe in you? I kind of paraphrased the question. Answer: they listened and sought me out. Sure, they did. Polls go up and down and up and down. I've seen them go down, and I've seen them go more down and more down and more down. But who believes in polls anyway? They're all skewed, biased. Question: will you make good on climate when you can't pass your bill? It will pass. $900 billion for climate resistance and resilience. Did I say resistance? Russia and China didn't show up. That tells us a lot. And he says we need to focus on what Russia, China, and Saudi Arabia aren't doing. So that's the key to climate change, is let's focus on what the guys that could give a shit aren't doing. Get ready to blame them. And they're going to really feel bad. They're going to send a contingency of ambassadors to kowtow and beg our forgiveness. Question: how's it going with begging OPEC to produce more in light of your climate agenda? Nothing happens overnight. We have to talk to those guys, and we're trying to start renewable energy, and we're trying to get rid of carbon emissions. So I have to ask them, why are you guys cutting off oil to make things harder on us? He actually said that, by the way. Go back. It's really hilarious. I'm almost done, and I'm not done. You want to accelerate renewable energy, at the same time berate OPEC for not sending us more oil to help us do that. Have to keep the gas down too, because people work and they can't spend a lot of money on gas, but we need to get rid of oil. So we need electric cars on the road. A funny image of William Howard Taft. He was the first president to ever ride in a car, and I could just see him if he was Biden, Petri Dish. It's just a funny image that he's a big fat president. He was one of the greatest presidents compared to what we have now, William Howard Taft. No politician could even hold his hat, so forget that. But he was fat. I think he was the first president to have a bathtub in the White House, so they must have been smelly before that. Or maybe his bathtub was the biggest bathtub. I don't know. He was the first president to ride in a car. Now, it'd be funny if he was Petri Dish and he gets in the car and goes, this device is going to take over the world. This is going to make things so much better for everybody. Okay, everybody go out and shoot your horses and burn your carts down because I want everybody to have a car. That's Petri Dish. And he'd be like, we're going to shoot all your horses and burn your carts because we really need to move to this car thing, because once we all have cars, this world would be incredible. We'll go places so fast. But luckily it was Taft, and he rode in the car and said, that's great. And somebody else came along and made it affordable for people to buy. And that guy was out of his mind, but he invented the assembly line. Well, I can talk about that later. Everybody should know that if you went to school, which back in when they had schools and they taught stuff. Why are there no truckers or longshoremen? Isn't that the reason that the supply chain isn't working? They left for better jobs. They didn't want to make $7 or $8 an hour anymore. Because I guess according to Petri Dish, the truckers and longshoremen are making $7 or $8 an hour. And I'm sure they were back when he first joined the workforce back in 1810. But they make more than that. No, they all left their jobs for better ones. Better paying union jobs that I created. Oh, God. Iran nuclear talks, well, the 10 years is almost up anyway for the $1 trillion we gave them to not build bombs when whatever that thing was from Punahou was president. Now he wants to get back into this JCPOA, which I was going to look up, but I'm not going to. It just is a deal with Iran where we bribe them not to make bombs. And we were stupid to get out of that because you see how bad Iran's been since we got out of that deal. So we need to get back into that. What punitive measures are there for people who don't follow your edicts? They don't need punishment because they're going to want to do it. It sounds like somebody else. Then the Catholic thing, and he has to just really ruin everything horribly and be a total curb. My son died and the Pope was there for me. And the Pope is compassionate and they just want to be inclusive, even if it is against their, dogma. And they asked the Pope, how do you feel about homosexuality? And the Pope said, who am I to judge? How Jesus-like, Christ-like. Then he says he's willing to reach out and forgive before sobbing again about his son. So he says, be all inclusive, and he shouldn't judge, and then he says he's willing to reach out and forgive as if there's something to forgive. And so you see the subtle irony of all their hypocrisy and idiocy and corruption. And if they think they're doing good on this planet, they're sadly mistaken. And I got to the end of it. It's a little long, but I got through. I know that he had gaps with the microphone in another meeting. I won't talk about that. And he fell asleep at a meeting today, and you can't help but feel sorry for him because it's a long trip, and he's been traveling and having to do these meetings every day, and he's not as energetic as he used to be, so I forgive him for falling asleep at the G7, talking about climate change, which is a very important crisis. So he's fallen asleep. So I had enough sarcasm for that. I think I did pretty well. It's good when I have these notes, and my glasses seem to make me look a bit academic. So I'll bid you adieu, and thank you. See you next time.